Hi. That's really nice. Do you need questions? I guess I want to ask questions. What question? Tell me. Hmm? No, I still use Discord. It's just that I'm very not active. I think I only use it for like other sorts of jobs. The only job I did was just did some voice acting. I'm just still there. It's just. Oh, goodbye. Hmm. I mean, you could leave if you want, but I'm just like making stuff and just talking to people that come by. So, yeah. For what? What do I look beautiful for? Wait, which reference? This one has so many pixels. Let me check. Alright. I guess that's true. Yeah, also, like, I stopped making videos to focus on my schoolwork, and, well, maybe I'll post one, yeah, probably in 20 minutes or something, or 10 minutes, I don't know. But this one is just off topic, because this one is, like, just for fun. This is not mimic related and stuff. No, not really. Plus, isn't it like Roblox making worse updates? Yeah. Yeah, for fun videos. Mm, I don't feel like making like updates about like Roblox. That's too much work. And plus, that's too much searching on like Twitter or something. Like, aren't they just like pressuring themselves to push more updates? Like, I don't, I don't know. Okay, yeah, you can ask questions. Can you tell me about Just Dance? I guess it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like still the same. It's just that the old one is like the classic mode. Hmm? Yes, I remember Triad and the Royal Sovereignty. Like, well, I mean, the Royal Sovereignty, they have like some of the most iconic designs. But the problem is that they kept like remaking the chapter again. I was like really confused on why they kept remaking it. Yeah, and there was dramas. Like, I, yeah, there's only drama about them. Same goes to Triad. I don't know. But, yeah. I did, I remember making, like, a video about the TRS. You already know. Hmm. Was it TRS? Dang. I was just like waiting for like that crystal lady. How did they manage to get so much money? What? Hmm. Is it still continuing? Like the TRS? Like, you're already causing drama, and there's like less people that's like looking at you. Like honestly, anyone could make like a remake of the game. No one like anyone could make a remake of the game without paying it. Also, no offense, it's the guy who paid 40 free Robux a nepo baby or something. Right. Is that all? Like, I just hate this monitor's design. Like, why are you like making vertebrates in like triangles or something like that? It's really annoying. Uh, wait. BRB, you can continue chatting. I have to like go to the bathroom. Oh my god, I can't.
Just how alone he really is. Akane meets Mitsue in the hallway and reports that Hiroto seems completely calm while working on his drawings, making the older caregiver thank her for the update. Mitsue then explains that headquarters gave them 2 strict instructions, which are to never leak information about the intruder and to make sure every single room is securely locked. Wondering where Hikita is, Akane learns that she's resting in her room, since she clearly hasn't gotten over the terrifying shock of running into that wild man earlier. So the 2 women agree to start their security check right away, heading down the gloomy hallway to begin their inspection with Kiwako's room. With a heavy creak, they slowly open the door to the master bedroom, bringing only a small candle to light their way through the oppressive darkness. Stepping inside to the familiar sound of loud buzzing, Mitsue casually calls out to the patient, asking if anyone else has come in here recently. But the veiled woman just lies there silently while the flies swarm around her head, making Mitsue casually point out that she never replies to them anyway. After confirming that the boys' room is also completely safe, the 2 caregivers leave the area and head straight toward the back archive to continue their patrol. Opening the next door, they step into a massive library filled with towering bookshelves, revealing an incredibly huge collection of reading material. Looking at all the sign language dictionaries, Akane realizes this knowledge must have been gathered over generations, but Mitsue quickly snaps at her to stop standing around. They continue their patrol across the massive library to the opposite hallway, where Mitsue mentions that all these old rooms have been completely vacant for a long time. Checking the last handle, Mitsue announces that they're done with the 2nd floor and tells Akane to hurry up, but the young nurse points out one door they missed. Mitsue explains that the locked room is actually the husband's study, and the company strictly forbade them from entering, admitting she's never even met the guy herself. Suddenly changing the subject, Mitsue stares intensely at Akane and asks why she risked her life to help the boy, prompting Akane to reply that you can't just abandon a child. But Mitsue coldly argues that saving someone else's kid isn't part of a helper's job, leaving Akane gripping the railing in pure shock while insisting that Hiroto is Kiwako's son. Mitsue glares at Akane, aggressively asking if she's trying to act like a mother to Hiroto now, which leaves Akane completely stunned. Akane defends herself, saying she was just worried about the boy, but Mitsue clearly isn't buying her innocent explanation. After checking the 1st floor, Mitsue tells Akane there's nothing more to say and that she'll handle dinner alone, effectively shutting down any further conversation. By midnight on the 2nd day, the mansion is completely silent as the darkness deepens around the old estate. Akane sneaks out of her room, making her way to the massive library they inspected earlier, trying to be even more careful than before. She isn't there to steal anything, but rather to look for a sign language dictionary so she can communicate better with Hiroto. Finally finding the right section, she grabs a book, hoping it will help her build a stronger connection with the silent child. Suddenly, she spots a shadow moving outside the library window and ducks behind the bookshelves, hoping whoever it is didn't see her. She peeks through the shelves and sees a figure moving along the opposite staircase, wondering if it was just a trick of the light. But then, a slow tapping sound echoes through the hallway, and she realizes someone is definitely walking around out there. As the shadow draws closer, Akane holds her breath, terrified they might notice her hiding in the dark library. A woman with long, disheveled hair staggers past the doorway, and Akane realizes with horror that it must be Kiwako. The terrifying figure disappears down the hall, and Akane watches her go, her heart pounding from the close encounter. Desperate not to be caught, she quickly and quietly slips back to her own room, locking the door behind her. Safe in her room, she struggles to catch her breath, her mind racing with questions about what she just saw. She knows Kiwako is supposed to be active at night, but she wonders if the mother went to check on her son after the attacker incident. However, she realizes the shadow came from the direction of the empty rooms, leading straight to the forbidden, locked study. Shivering in the dark, Akane realizes she has come to fear the very patient she is supposed to be caring for, dreading the next time Kiwako starts to move. Akane stands outside the mansion, apologizing to Hikita for what happened yesterday, but the older woman tells her not to worry about it. Hikita asks if Akane hurt her arm, but the young nurse brushes it off as just a minor burn, completely hiding the truth of the attack. Then, Hikita notices she's favoring her left leg, but Akane lies again, saying she just twisted her ankle and that it's nothing terrible. The scene shifts to the third night, inside the dark bedroom, as Akane notices a heavy blanket draped over Kiwako in the middle of summer. She wonders if Mitsue left it there, or if Kiwako somehow pulled it out herself, reaching out to investigate the strange situation. As Akane pulls the blanket back, a swarm of bugs bursts out, crawling all over the poor woman's body, making Akane scream in terror. Staring at the massive wasps swarming the bed, Akane suddenly realizes she's definitely seen these specific bugs somewhere before. Hikita rushes over and asks if Akane is hurt, then orders her to go get a towel and some hot water to check Kiwako's body. After inspecting the patient, they find no new puncture wounds, noting that the bugs are larger than normal flies and seem to be wasps. Looking out the window at the heavy rain, Akane realizes her assigned yard work will be impossible today, giving her time to think about those bugs. She knocks on Hiroto's door, wondering if he's safe, and enters the room to find him hiding under his blanket, looking terrified. Sitting beside him, Akane pulls out her notebook and asks if they can talk, hoping to build a better connection with the frightened child. She notices the boy has a box filled with scraps of paper he uses to communicate, realizing his interactions with the others are severely limited. So Akane opens a book on basic sign language and points to the simple signs, encouraging him to give it a try. They spend time deepening their connection, mimicking the gestures and learning how to sign their names to each other. Their bond grows as they chat about simple things like making curry for dinner, the innocent conversation bringing a brief moment of warmth to the dreary mansion. Akane watches him carefully, wondering if Kiwako taught him how to sign back when she was still well, and asks if he put bugs in his mom's futon. Remembering his detailed drawings, Akane realizes she recognized the bugs in Kiwako's bed from the sketches in his notebook. Hiroto pulls out an insect encyclopedia and points to a giant digger wasp, a terrifying creature that paralyzes its prey and lays eggs inside them. As Akane reads about the horrifying parasitic nature of the wasps, she signs to the boy that bugs are dangerous, warning him not to play with them. The little boy shows her a piece of paper with the words, "Help Mama," scribbled on it, making Akane wonder if he used the wasp prank because he couldn't express himself properly. Hoping to comfort him, she uses sign language to promise that she isn't mad, adding that his mother is definitely gonna get better soon. But Hiroto just stares back in total shock, leaving the young nurse wondering if she explained it wrong or if there's something else he desperately want to say. He quickly points to another part of the paper, showing a note dated August 20th that warns there is something hidden inside this very mansion. Reading the chilling message, Akane starts connecting the dots about all the abnormal things happening around her, questioning if she's just overthinking the whole situation. She thinks about the patient's strange bluish-green skin, noting that the poor woman isn't completely paralyzed and wondering what kind of bizarre illness she actually has. On top of that, she questions the bizarre caregiving methods, like the hidden face and the raw meat, desperately wondering what everyone is trying to hide from her. Looking closer at the memo, she notices a different name crossed out and replaced with Kiwako's, so she quickly asks Hiroto where he found this mysterious note. Suddenly, Mitsue bursts into the room, angrily telling Akane that she should be cleaning instead of doing whatever she wants with the little boy. But Akane bravely turns around and directly asks the older caregiver who Komako Sanada is, making Mitsue's eyes go wide with absolute shock. Mitsue frantically demands to know where she heard that name, but Akane plays dumb while asking if this Sanada person suffered from the exact same symptoms. Completely speechless, the older woman just stands by the door, panting heavily, while a thick and terrifying silence fills the tense room. Glaring through the cracked door with a truly demonic expression, Mitsue orders her to never bring this up again before loudly slamming it shut. Left alone with the frightened child, Akane stares at the forgotten memo, completely certain now that Mitsue is hiding a massive secret connected to this mansion. Seeing that Hiroto sensed the scary atmosphere, she smiles gently and signs a promise to definitely help his mama, truly hoping her warm feelings reach him. Akane walks into the kitchen while the heavy rain pours outside, immediately apologizing to Hikita for making her wait so long. Hikita points out that she's late and already prepared the raw meat, asking if Akane was busy doing something else since the yard work was rained out. Admitting she was teaching Hiroto sign language, Akane apologizes for acting selfishly, but the older caregiver praises her admirable dedication to the boy. Hikita cheerfully asks to be taught next time, making Akane realize she isn't cold like Mitsue, before they head back to Kiwako's room to discuss the creepy bugs. Standing by the bed, Hikita casually suggests that the bugs were just a harmless prank by Hiroto to get attention, right as Kiwako's finger suddenly twitches with a sickening crack. Akane panics and points out the moving hand, but Hikita calmly brushes it off, telling her not to get scared because bodies sometimes just move on their own. Noting that Akane is finally getting used to the horror, Hikita starts feeding the patient raw meat alongside Mitsue, prompting the young nurse to nervously ask a question. While they squelch the disgusting food into the dark mouth, Akane gathers her courage and asks Hikita if she knows someone named Komako Sanada. Hikita looks confused and repeats the name, so Akane presses further, wondering if this mysterious woman was a previous guest at the mansion. Akane explains she heard the name from Mitsue and that Sanada had similar symptoms to Kiwako, but Hikita insists she doesn't know much about her since she cared for someone else. When Akane asks if Sanada passed away or was just a relative, Hikita sighs and scolds the young nurse for always jumping to the absolute worst conclusions. To Akane's absolute shock, Hikita reveals that Sanada actually recovered safely, meaning her terrifying caregiving sessions completely ended and she was able to leave. The older caregiver adds that Sanada even had a child and is living happily now, making Akane violently flinch at the mention of a baby while Mitsue walks by. Hikita just laughs at Akane's startled reaction, teasingly reminding her that the company motto is "Smiles and Happiness" before turning to leave the room. Her haunting laughter echoes down the dark hallway, leaving Akane standing completely frozen in place while staring down at the patient's lifeless hand. Akane stands frozen in the hallway, recalling how Kiwako's finger had definitely twitched on its own earlier that day. Her room offers no comfort as she sits alone, overwhelmed by the realization that there's definitely something wrong with this mansion. She feels completely helpless, knowing that Hikita and the others won't take her concerns seriously, leaving her alone with her multiplying doubts. Reading over her notebook, she realizes that no matter how much she tries to analyze the situation, every single detail screams that something is terribly wrong. Looking back at the note written by the little boy, she feels an overwhelming urge to help him, unable to just ignore his desperate plea for his mother. She remembers Hikita's earlier praise for helping Hiroto, using it to build her courage as she finally decides to take action. Akane creeps into Kiwako's dark room, determined to learn the secrets of the mansion if the patient is actually still conscious. She whispers to the motionless figure on the bed, asking for just a little bit of her time, before reaching out to remove the heavy veil covering her face. In her desperation, Akane tells Kiwako that she wants her to write on a memo about what is happening in the mansion, hoping to finally get some real answers. But the patient just lies there, completely still, completely unresponsive to Akane's frantic pleas for her to change the situation even just a little. Desperate to get through to her, Akane practically begs, telling the woman that she can't abandon Hiroto either, and that he specifically asked her to help his mama. She reaches out for the filthy bag covering the patient's head, telling Kiwako that they need to talk face to face and openly about what's really going on. The heavy fabric falls away, and Akane gasps as she finally sees the horrific truth hidden beneath the bag. The woman's eyes and mouth are completely sewn shut with thick, rusty staples, her face a twisted mask of agony and mutilation. With a sickening series of snaps and pops, the staples are forcefully ripped from her flesh, tearing her skin open in a gruesome display. Dark, thick blood begins to drip from her ruined eyes and mouth, pooling around her as she lets out a silent scream of pure agony. Akane stands frozen, watching in sheer horror as the dark blood flows down the woman's neck, the terrible reality of the mansion finally staring her right in the face. Suddenly, the patient lunges forward with incredible speed, grabbing Akane's arm with an unnatural, terrifying strength that makes her notebook fly out of her hands. Before Akane can even react, the woman tackles her onto the bed, pinning her down in the darkness of the terrifying room. The monster violently bites down on Akane's arm, its teeth tearing into her flesh as its long-suppressed emotions finally bare their fangs and burst forth. Akane desperately tries to pry the bloodthirsty monster off her, the two of them locked in a terrifying struggle as Kiwako's teeth continue to tear at the nurse's flesh. Kiwako's grip is incredibly strong, and she snarls like a wild animal, her dark blood spilling over Akane's face in a gruesome display of absolute madness. The monster relentlessly attacks, its monstrous strength overpowering Akane as she screams for Hikita to help, completely terrified for her life. Suddenly, Kiwako's hand spasms violently, her body twisting in pain, the eerie sliding sound of her skin tearing, making the situation even more horrific. Akane watches, horrified and confused, as the woman collapses onto the floor, trembling violently, as if some invisible force had just struck her down. Just then, Mitsue bursts into the room with a look of pure fury, angrily demanding to know what unnecessary thing Akane has done this time to cause such chaos. Trembling on the floor, Akane tries to stammer out an explanation while pointing at the twitching body, but the sight of the unmasked, mutilated woman leaves Mitsue completely speechless. A terrifying buzzing sound fills the room as a massive swarm of giant wasps suddenly erupts from the patient's open wounds, horrifying everyone. The monstrous insects aggressively swarm through the air, and Mitsue quickly yells at Akane to cover the patient's head with the bag before they can escape. Desperately trying to protect herself, Akane scrambles backward, completely overwhelmed by the chaotic nightmare unfolding in the dark room. Mitsue urgently commands her to grab the fire extinguisher and put the bag over Kiwako's head, while the older caregiver frantically sprays the swarm with harsh chemicals. The lights flicker on as Hikita rushes in, completely confused by the broken window and demanding to know what the hell happened. Mitsue angrily explains that Akane took off the bag and woke the patient, then urges Hikita to quickly get the company on the line so they can return the woman to her proper place. Hikita agrees, telling them to hold Kiwako down while she goes to report the terrifying incident to headquarters before things get even worse. Out in the pouring rain, Akane desperately searches the dark forest for Hikita, yelling her name through the stormy weather, hoping to find some kind of help. The rain makes the dense woods feel even more oppressive, but she keeps pushing forward, knowing they have to find Kiwako before it's too late. But Hikita appears with a grim expression, suggesting they head back to the mansion because finding the patient in this storm is completely impossible. Akane pleads with her to reconsider, reminding her of their duty, but Hikita smiles weakly and says that bringing Kiwako back is exactly what they must do. Noticing a fresh drag mark in the mud, Akane connects the dots, realizing that Hikita's twisted ankle from earlier wasn't a minor injury, but a serious wound that was actively bleeding. Suddenly, the ominous sound of snapping twigs echoes through through the dark forest, and Akane turns around, her heart dropping as she hears the noise getting closer. The horrifying figure of Kiwako lunges out of the bushes, tackling Hikita to the wet ground and violently biting down on her neck with monstrous ferocity.
Sorry, fast asleep. Really? Where? I don't see it in the WhatsApp. Maybe you accidentally send it in the messenger.
When the need to crush whatever's next, grab a solo energy.
And chaotic nature stole the hearts of fans everywhere. However, who would know that almost 20 years later, Kuromi and Onagai My Melody would be brought back into the spotlight, but not in a positive way. With the anime producers coming for what they think is rightfully theirs, and a lawsuit resulting in no definitive answer after a whole year, I thought it would be interesting to go over the history and making of Kuromi, along with the iconic Onagai My Melody anime, as well as the 2025 lawsuit, possible outcomes, and of course, the controversial discourse regarding the topic. Is Sanrio well within their rights or in over their head? Or does Studio Comet have no case at all? As you could have guessed, I have thoughts. And there are actually a few misconceptions about this case that I hope to clear up for you guys. So let's get right into it. Also, I never do this, but I am getting really close to 50,000 subscribers, which is like a really important milestone to me. It would literally be the craziest ever. So if you're not already subscribed, consider doing so if you'd like, and if you don't want to, then don't. So let's get into the history of Kuromi. As mentioned before, Kuromi made her debut in the 2005 Japanese animated series Onagai My Melody, which means Please My Melody. Many fans may not know that this was actually Kuromi's first appearance. My Melanie, and she was pretty much conceived out of the idea that My Melody needed a rival and the series itself needed a general antagonist. The story won't really work if there's no one to fight against, really. So, Kuromi was born. Kuromi is a little rabbit that looks very similar to My Melody. I have a few over here. This is My Melody and this is Kuromi, so she's kind of like the evil doppelganger, if you will, of My Melody, and they're both freaking adorable. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, a subscriber sent this to me. Thank you, Elvira, as always. The series, produced by Studio Comet, who was also responsible for shows like Sanrio's Jewel Pet and School Rumble, revolves around My Melody being sent from her world, Maryland, to the human world to stop Kuromi and her sidekick Baku from collecting 100 black music notes in order to revive the spirit of dark power. This, in turn, will kill all dreams. Kuromi simply wants to do this to get back at My Melody, as she comically unknowingly one-ups Kuromi constantly, which drives Kuromi mad. So, to counteract this, My Melody must collect 100 pink notes in order to save both her world and the human world from Kuromi's destruction. Kuromi and My Melody's dynamic is very much similar to that of SpongeBob and Squidward, as fans have pointed out in the past. My Melody honestly doesn't even realize her and Kuromi are beefing, and genuinely thinks they're friends, while Kuromi literally keeps a list of all of the times she's been wronged by My Melody. However, there are times Kuromi slightly warms up to My Mello, even helping her out on the rare occasion. Their relationship is complex, but comical and heartwarming at times. My Melody's straight up oblivion to Kuromi's anger kills me every time, honestly. Kuromi is intense and quote-unquote evil, but she's actually quite girly and often pines after Hiragi-sama, a high school violin player who teams up with Kuromi and Baku to revive the spirit of dark power. After the anime's debut, Kuromi became a main character of the Sanrio franchise. You've likely seen her on many pieces of merchandise, or even in the new stop-motion series, My Melody and Kuromi, which I love so much. It is one of my favorite pieces of media in recent history, so love that. Kuromi is always highly ranked in the yearly Sanrio character rankings, and definitely stands out amongst the other contenders due to her dark feminine look that has resonated with so many alternative fans. So, who do we credit for the creation of this wonderful character? Well, a battle over our girl Kuromi would ensue almost 20 years after her debut in Onegai My Melody. What are we drinking today? I have a cookie butter latte that I made with my very own homemade cookie butter syrup. Keep an eye out on the second channel, Flurry Sun. I'm gonna do a coffee recipe video and everything, so stay tuned for that. Like, are you kidding? Look at that. Literally the best coffee ever. The lawsuit. I don't know why I said it like that. Now, this lawsuit actually began last year. I've waited long enough, and there have been no updates literally since like March of last year. I think maybe even February. So I waited in hopes that we'd get some updates, but we haven't. So we're just gonna talk about it now. In February of 2025, several articles began covering a shocking lawsuit between Sanrio and none other than Studio Comet themselves, aka the producers of the iconic and beloved anime Onegai My Melody. The mess started when, in the book Kuromi's Secret, released in 2023, Sanrio credited Kuromi's design to Yuko Yamaguchi, who was actually the third designer of Hello Kitty. Since then, several sources have listed Yamaguchi as the creator of Kuromi. However, according to Studio Comet, they came up with the character of Kuromi without that much guidance from Sanrio after all. Studio Comet president and animation producer Hiromichi Mogaki says, quote, "We were asked by Weave, who had received approval from Sanrio, to produce the anime. The only thing that Sanrio provided us when it came to the anime adaptation was My Melody's character draft. So the anime staff worked hard to come up with designs for supporting characters such as rivals and enemies. The character Kuromi was born out of this process." Studio Comet credits one of their animators, Tomoko Miyokawa, as the creator of the character, and therefore are suing Sanrio for moral copyright infringement. However, that's not all. An anonymous person allegedly involved in the making of the anime took it a step further and suggested that Studio Comet was responsible for almost everything regarding Kuromi and Baku, even down to the names. Anonymous, or A, provided the rejected names for Kuromi, such as Yorami and Warumi. Quote, "From the ideas, it was director Makoto Moriwaki who said, quote, 'It's fine to go with Kuromi, right?' Unquote. I heard what he said. There's no mistaking it." CBR.com says, Sanrio was purportedly not present at the production site, with Weave acting as the intermediary. Intermediary? Okay. Oh my god, she's sultry with it. A says that meetings at the anime studio took place in 2004 to decide on the anime's story and character setting, concept art, personalities, character backgrounds, etc. A adds they and Moriwaki decided it would be good for My Melody to have a rival, and that's when Kuromi came to mind. So, what are we thinking? Well, it's only fair that we get Sanrio's side of the story. Just a day after the story hit, Sanrio would respond to the claims. We believe that the copyright of Kuromi clearly belongs to us through relevant contracts and that the moral rights of the author have been properly handled. Based on this, we have been in good faith discussions regarding Studio Comet's recent claims. However, our views have not been accepted by Studio Comet. Our company has been taking appropriate measures regarding the handling of intellectual property rights, such as characters, for many years, and will continue to clearly convey our position in the courts." Unquote. The aftermath. What was the outcome? You guys have been watching this long. You know there has been no outcome. But why, and what do people think about it? Well, it seems there have been no updates, and as far as we know, the case is still ongoing as of 2026. These days, you don't hear much discourse over the topic, as most people have forgotten about this, including me. And, I mean, we haven't gotten any new information, so what else is there to really talk about? I say as I make a 15-minute video. However, as for opinions at the time of the lawsuit, fans have been pretty split, but I would say most of the comments I've seen have actually been in favor of Sanrio, which is not at all surprising, really. I mean, everyone loves Sanrio. But most fans who have been critical of Studio Comet have basically cited this whole thing as unnecessary. Sanrio is such a big brand that I doubt they didn't make sure they had the rights to Kuromi before adding her to the main lineup, especially with all the collaborations that also happen with their characters. I don't know much about the law in Japan, but in the US, anyone can file a lawsuit for anything. Whether or not that lawsuit continues through the many stages of the legal process is another thing. Really? Is it necessary to do that? It's unnecessary. 20 years and you're just now saying something? If this goes to court, Sanrio is gonna get her. They're just jealous Sanrio made her more popular than they did. Others have stood up for Studio Comet. If I were the creator of Kuromi and they didn't credit the source, I would be pretty mad. Just because they're a big company with an outstanding brand and adorable characters doesn't make them all good. And just because so much time has passed, it doesn't mean the problem is irrelevant anymore. Damn, I mean, fair enough. Sanrio should have given them credit, but I hope this is just an issue that Sanrio will fix and Kuromi won't become an ancient, unproduced character. I can guess the situation is popping up now because Kuromi's gotten a recent popularity rise, and I bet the animation studio needed to come up with the money first in order to file the lawsuit. It's also a common argument that if Sanrio commissioned Studio Comet to make them a character and paid them, Sanrio still essentially owns that character. They paid for it, right? Now, before we get to what I think, we have to remember this lawsuit is currently happening in Japan, so we kind of need to get a bit familiar with how Japanese copyright laws work. It seems in Japan there are two different rights a creator has: economic rights and moral rights. In the simplest terms, because I am not a law girly by any means, and please correct me if I'm wrong, economic rights basically allow the author to own the copyright of the creation and therefore sell and make money off of it. Moral rights, on the other hand, gives the author the right to their reputation and title as the creator. They might not be in charge of merchandise or even make money off of it for that matter, but they have the legal right to say, I made this. It is possible to only have economic rights and not moral rights. However, you cannot transfer moral rights to another person, as it is simply just a fact that you created the product. You can't go back in time and say, actually, never mind, this person made it. And I guess unless there's proof, I don't know, that part I don't know. I know I'm being a bit confusing because it is kind of confusing, but here's a great explanation by Humble Bunny. Moral rights, I'm the author, I made this. Economic rights, I have the copyright, meaning I have the right to copy this. Both of these rights, moral and economic, belong to the designer upon the piece's conception. Japanese law does not require formal dedication of these points, i.e. a contract. Dependent on a contract, however, the author can release the economic rights, the right to copy or reuse, to their customer. Therein, the artist has maintained authorship of the piece, yet essentially provided the right to copy to the client. My hair's crazy. It's raining, so any curly wavy girl understands the pain. Studio Comet is suing Sanrio for moral copyright infringement, meaning, from my understanding, they're not necessarily looking to own the copyright of Kuromi, or even saying they want money from the sales of her merchandise. They simply want to be recognized as the creator of that character. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So if it's true that Studio Comet is fully responsible for the creation of Kuromi, they have the moral rights to her, and Sanrio is out here claiming that some other woman created Kuromi, that would make Sanrio wrong here. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I definitely came into this a little biased because I love Onagai My Melody so much. It's one of my favorite shows, period, never mind anime. I don't know, they really made these characters come to life in a way that I have yet to see replicated. Although, again, My Melody and Kuromi did come pretty close. However, it was important to consider the fact that Studio Comet saw Kuromi getting more popular in recent years, probably since around 2020, and wanted to get some money from it, right? But after doing some research into the situation, as well as Japanese copyright laws, I am personally leaning a bit more towards Studio Comet's side. Doesn't really feel like they're looking for that much out of this, besides their integrity. And to me, it doesn't necessarily seem like Studio Comet is coming out of the woodwork 20 years later just because Kuromi's gotten more popular. Sanrio had only just started naming Yamaguchi as the creator, and that's what Studio Comet has a problem with. That is, if they're telling the truth about Kuromi's creation. If they are, Sanrio straight up saying someone else created her is kinda slimy to me. If they're outright lying, well then that's pretty slimy on their part. Honestly, I'm sure there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and information that has yet to be released, so this is all subject to change. But with a whole year gone by with no updates, I couldn't help but bring this up and have the conversation. So, what do you think? Are you on Sanrio's side, Studio Comet side, or are you on Kuromi's side? Because nobody's asked how she feels about all this yet. Anyway, I know this was a bit of a short one, but I just wanted to come on here and kind of yap. I feel like I've done a lot of like longer videos that are like really scripted out and all this, and I'm just like, I kind of just want to sit down with all my plushies and talk at you guys about the situation. And I know I'm sitting a little further back today, but that's because I want you guys to see the ears. Anyway, that's about it for me today. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye!
The machine was found to have a series of internal settings described in its file as levels, with a lever going up to 5 of these levels, each one increasing the complexity of its moves until level 4, where it's at or above any Grandmaster who's ever played. The 5th level, though, stops playing normally, instead making erratic and illegal moves, becoming entirely nonsensical. Yet this would be the least of the researchers' concerns. Within minutes of activating level 5, every personnel connected to SCP-1875 received an email at the exact same time. Inside that email is the same image we now know is the twin girls, sitting side by side, faces stretched into those unnatural smiles. The SCP article describes it as a cognitohazard, something that causes psychological effects in people who stare at it for extended periods. Researchers reportedly experienced anxiety, headaches, hallucinations, severe paranoia, and even thoughts of self-harm after viewing it for long enough. The photograph is undoubtedly disturbing with or without the backstory, but like a lot of early SCP images, its real origin wasn't originally documented very clearly. For years, the picture used in the article was supposedly an edited photograph that had been circulating online before the SCP entry existed, though of what seems unknown. Eventually in mid-2020, licensing concerns forced the SCP Wiki to remove it. The replacement image was created by an SCP community member who tried to recreate the same disturbing effect. The final version was produced by heavily editing a stock photo of 2 girls on a roller coaster. After layers of blur, color distortion, stretching, and contrast adjustments, the image took on the warped look people most associate with SCP-1875. SCP-096. SCP-096 is another infamous SCP entity described as a tall, extremely thin humanoid with elongated limbs and a face it constantly tries to hide. In its normal state, it does nothing. It sits, stands, or leans against the wall while covering its face with its hands. but when anyone sees its face, even if just a fraction of it in a photo, it will hunt them down with an innate sense of their location while making this high-pitched screaming noise, almost like it's in pain or despair. The logs claim that in this state, distance nor obstacle matters for this entity, crossing through oceans and deserts and tanking anti-tank rounds just to kill anyone who sees his face. In one of these incidents, a semi-pro mountaineer saw only 4 pixels of the entity in a photo he took months, maybe even years ago. It was only until he really looked at the picture one day and noticed an off-color patch of snow that sealed his fate. The 4 fucking pixels photos, as it's been called, like many SCP photos, has been changed from its original due to copyright concerns. The original blurrier photos still exist, and its origins are somewhat of a mystery. Through an archival website, we can confirm the original photo was used in the site posted by the author Dr. Dan in 2010, but no further detail of its origin is mentioned. Though the man behind the image is shrouded in mystery, the exact location of where it was taken has miraculously been found by Reddit users. The photo was taken in an Indian mountain range, specifically referred to as the 0 point. Though there is no exact lineup on Google Earth, this picture shown here was supposedly taken mere feet from the original incident. SCP-682. SCP-682, also known as the hard-to-destroy reptile, is described as a massive, decaying, vaguely reptilian organism with a constantly deteriorating body that somehow never actually dies. What makes it worse is that 682 is fully intelligent. It can speak and reason, but instead of cooperating with the Foundation, it responds with pure consistent hatred towards all life. Unlike most SCPs which are contained and studied, SCP-682's only focus by the Foundation is to be exterminated. They tried almost everything imaginable too, submerging it in acid, subjected it to extreme physical trauma, and even exposed it to other anomalies specifically capable of erasing or destroying targets at a fundamental level, all to no avail. Even worse, any damage to this beast only makes it stronger and more powerful. Because of this, SCP-682 is kept in a chamber filled with highly corrosive acid, not because it harms it in the long term, but because it slows its regeneration enough to keep it dormant. The image most people associate with SCP-682 is a disturbing rotting beach skeleton, something that, at first glance, feels completely disconnected from any real animal. From what can actually be traced, multiple photos of similar remains surfaced around 2006, tied to a story out of Sakhalin Island, where a strange body reportedly washed ashore. According to the claims of many conspiracy theory type articles, Russian soldiers recovered it for identification, only to find no clear match, which is where the unknown creature narrative really took off, some dubbing it the Sea Wolf. Though of course, as many have pointed out, the decomposition in the corpse matches that of a whale, specifically of a
Oh, ask Mom. She hid it from that Mom.
When it comes to puppet combo games, a lot of people know the low poly villains, the VHS grainy filters, and the 1980s horror aesthetics that are all over the games. But as I've been playing more of the games and making videos on this channel, I started to realize that there's not a lot of lore out there in terms of like an iceberg video. I found 2 different icebergs on like puppet combo stuff, and to be quite honest, they just weren't that good.
Or will be very specific that only those that are really invested in the community have come across it. Nonetheless, let's continue down the rabbit hole. Or, well, the iceberg in this case.
Conspiracy theory type.
Layer 2. Dream removal. As stated before, Dream Marker was removed from the game on the Christmas update of 2022. This was due to controversy regarding the YouTuber Dream and the accusations made against him, making the developers not want to be associated with the situation, where they decided the best course of action was to remove Dream Marker permanently and replace them with another marker. This led to the whitelisting of Sweet Dream Marker made by Quick